Stadia. This is a platform that entered 2019 with a whimper. It did not garner many positive impressions. The technology itself is interesting and cool, but Google didn't implement it in a way with a business model that made it a compelling proposition for your average customer. So enter 2020, and Stadia has posted the following post on January 16th in which they talked about plans for the new year in the hopes that it'll get people excited, but there's still a lot of skepticism surrounding this platform. Let's hear what Stadia has to say for what they have in store in 2020. This post reads, "Hi everybody. When Stadia launched in November, we delivered a great gaming experience for players, and we continue to work toward our long-term vision for the future of gaming. Stadia is an evolving platform, and we have been busy in the 2 months since launch, adding great content, features, and ways to play." So one of the big problems with Stadia is that a lot of features were in fact missing. The way it launched, it feels like it was early access or beta, but they released it as if it were a final product. The post continues, "Among others, we have added more great games to the Stadia library, including 6 titles to Stadia Pro." So this is overselling it a little bit. There are currently 26 titles on Stadia with 1 exclusive. That's not a lot of games. All those games are all pretty much old titles people have already played that are priced better in other storefronts. And as far as the 1 exclusive goes, it's neat, but it's not a must-buy. It's not a platform seller. This next bullet point says, "Welcome Typhoon Studios to our Stadia games and entertainment family." So they bought a studio, I suppose. That's a step. But if they're only now starting to buy studios and establish a core team of people who are working on first-party games, then Stadia is in trouble. Next bullet point, updated all Chromecast Ultra so you can play Stadia on more screens. So the fact that you need Chromecast Ultra at all to play Stadia games on TV is a pretty limiting factor, if you ask me. A lot of people own smart TVs, and they should be able to just boot up Stadia really easily through some app, but instead the fact that you're limited to a Chromecast Ultra makes this promise of, oh, you don't need consoles to play Stadia, kind of moot and kind of misleading. You do actually need that little console, and the only way to play Stadia across multiple TVs in a household is to get multiple Chromecasts, so that limitation further defeats the promise of Stadia. Next bullet point, rolled out more features to Stadia, including Google Assistant functionality and achievements. So those are pretty basic features. Everything just feels so half-baked right now that touting Google Assistant functionality and achievements doesn't really look good. Next bullet point, delivered a multiplayer first for gamers with Stream Connect's debut in Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So that's one thing they added for one game in the couple months that the platform's been out, but again, there's just still too much missing. And finally, surprise Stadia founders with a second buddy pass to game with more of their friends. So that's kind of how the Stadia team is pretending as if 2019 was a good year, a great way to kick things off for Stadia, even though it really wasn't. And then in this next paragraph, they talk about what they hope to achieve throughout 2020. So this excerpt reads, "We have a lot more planned and will continue to work hard toward delighting gamers with our vision for Stadia. Looking at our upcoming lineup, we are tracking more than 120 games coming to Stadia in 2020 and are targeting more than 10 games in the first half of this year alone that will be only available on Stadia when they launch." So this bit right here is important. Stadia is touting 10 exclusives in the first half of this year, but the way they say when they launch tells me that it's timed exclusivity, meaning that they're essentially pulling an Epic Games store. They probably signed some kind of deal with certain studios to bring their games only on Stadia for a limited time before they come out on other platforms. And I don't know if that's going to make people happy. There are already enough people upset about how Epic Games is doing exclusivity, how they're snatching away third-party titles. But at the very least, with Epic and Steam, those two platforms are free to download, whereas with Stadia, you do need to pay for access to this cloud gaming service, and you have to pay full price for each individual game, and you're investing for access to a game. You don't get to download Stadia games or have them physically. Now, one could argue that there is a free version of Stadia coming down the line, but keep in mind that by not paying that $10 $10 a month, you're missing out on key features like 4K 60 frames per second and whatnot. So there's a disadvantage to not paying monthly, which isn't the case for Steam or Epic. Not to mention that when you buy a game on Steam or Epic, they fundamentally work the same on PC. As long as you have the hardware, those games will function as they should. Whereas with Stadia, if a game is exclusive to that exclusive game is locked out to people who don't have good internet connection, who don't have access to the service, who for some reason can't run Stadia well despite having good internet, who do not enjoy the notion of game streaming, the drawbacks that come with it, and just the lack of ownership. So that exclusivity is even worse than the way Epic is executing it. It's an even worse proposition. And then it reads right here, we're working with our partners to share more on those games soon. They're not saying these are our first-party games. They're talking about our partners. So they reached out to certain companies and studios to secure these exclusives. But I don't see a lot of people rushing out to get these exclusive games on Stadia if they know they're going to come out on local hardware like PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, where these games are bound to play better, where you don't have to rely on internet connectivity, where you don't have the flaws that come with game streaming, so on and so forth, and where you actually get to download the games and own them to a degree rather than just pay to get access to Google servers. Moving on, this post touts some features that are coming to Stadia in Q1 and beyond. So this reads, gamers can expect more features coming to Stadia in Q1 and beyond. A key benefit of our platform is that we can add these features without any updates or downloads, and we're starting to roll out the following over the next 3 months. Support for 4K gaming on the web. That's a big one. One of the selling points of Stadia Pro is 4K 60 FPS. They're charging money for 4K 60 FPS, and we have learned that even using Chromecast Ultra, a lot of games are not primed to run at 4K, so why the hell are they charging money for that feature, which is clearly not readily available universally across all games? And then add further assistant functionality when playing on the web, whatever. Support additional Android phones. That's another important one. They need to support all phones, period. The whole selling point of Stadia is any device with a screen can allow you to engage with Stadia titles. That's a promise that's gone unfulfilled. And then the last bullet point here reads wireless gameplay on the web through the Stadia controller. These are all just features that should have been there at launch. And even with these bullet points, there's still a bunch of stuff missing. So state share and crowd play, we don't know when that's happening. Family sharing, which allows you to buy a game once and share it across an entire household. We don't know when that's coming. There's just too much that's missing right now, and Google really shot itself in the foot by rushing Stadia out in such a meager state. They've lost so much momentum and gained so much bad press that they really are facing an uphill battle. And it's not just pundits who feel this way. There are a lot of loyal Stadia fans who are also losing patience with a platform that's just updating too slowly, that just hasn't said much in the last 3 months, hasn't really done much to bolster what seems currently like something of a dying platform. The following information was relayed by Business Insider. The headline reads, some of the people who made an early bet on Google's ambitious attempt to revolutionize video games are losing patience. And in this first segment, it links to a variety of Reddit posts in which people note that the Pro subscription is about to end for those who purchased that $130 Founders Edition. And there are people asking, hey, are you going to renew your subscription for Stadia Pro? So this user right here noted how the first $10 a month billing for Stadia Pro is going to hit founders on February 21st. And on that front, one user responded with, not sure if I'm going to renew. I've lost a lot of the excitement I had for the service, mostly due to the complete lack of communication from Google as to what is coming up. I'm not really excited because there simply doesn't seem to be anything to be excited about anymore. We'll see. A big announcement could change all that, but I'm not holding my breath. And then another user responded with, I'm hoping they're extending the free Pro sub, otherwise they're literally getting rid of their only marketing team cheerleaders. left. So that's really important to note. The initial adopters of Stadia, the people who got the Founders Edition, they got 3 months of Stadia Pro. When February 21st arrives, those 3 months will be over, and I'm wondering just how many of those people will end up jumping ship after seeing the meager launch of Stadia. I'm wondering whether Stadia will lose a significant amount of customers. And there's actually a Reddit user who tallied up the number of people who said they would continue with Stadia and pay that $10 a month versus the number of people who said they would jump ship. The results that they saw from this post right here is that 16 people said they would keep Stadia Pro, 2 people said maybe they'll keep Stadia Pro, 6 people were still unsure, they're on the fence, 9 people said they will maybe cancel, probably cancel, and then 20 people said they will absolutely cancel. And this is the Stadia subreddit where the most loyal and hardcore Stadia users are. Now, this data isn't scientific, so it's hard to say for sure how many people will actually stick with Stadia come February 21st, but it's still telling that in this community, in the Stadia subreddit, where a lot of the loyal fans are, there is this much division when it comes to who's gonna stick with it and who's just gonna give up on it. But for my part, I just don't see Stadia providing enough good reasons to keep most people paying $10 a month, and then on top of that, paying full price for individual games that you only gain access to rather than games that you get to download or own physically. On the Stadia subreddit, we're also starting to see posts like this in which people who supported Stadia from the outset and rooted for it, even these hardcore fans of Stadia, are starting to see the reality of this platform in its current state. So this user said, "Let me first start with the fact that I have been blindly in support of Stadia since it was first announced. All my friends told me it would suck, it wouldn't amount to anything, not to waste my money. Bought Founders on day one of it being announced. I would do a Google search for Stadia almost daily at work just to see new news articles about it. Fast forward to arrival day. So excited once I finally got my key." Oh yeah, remember that keys were doled out in a fashion where a lot of people got it late. It was just very disorganized the way that happened. Threw it all together and played the hell out of it. I was having a blast, played at home, in my bedroom, at work, at the in-laws, wherever I could. I tried to show it off to everyone, all the doubters out there. They would want me to show them all the cool stuff it can do. Then started the excuses. Oh yeah, the controller will be wireless eventually. During press conferences and such, Stadia did promise wireless functionality with the Stadia controller, which they didn't deliver on at launch. Oh yeah, only Pixel phones work for it right now. Again, defeats the whole purpose of this idea of playing on any screen you want. And oh yeah, 4K will be supported eventually. It's on the game developers, not Stadia, to make that happen. But they're charging money for 4K 60 FPS, so this excuse goes out the window. I would ask people to try it out, as I had 2 buddy passes. Nobody really cared after looking at it. It was gimmicky and nobody thought of it as this new amazing thing. Fast forward to today, I feel like it's died already. I check daily on here, Stadia Store, News Stories, and Ghost Town. For anyone that's been around for a new gaming console coming out, it's crazy for the first year of it coming out. Huge lineup of games constantly being thrown out. This feature, that feature, all being announced. So much fun. Here, I'm trying to enjoy and justify the $130 I spent on this, and I just can't at this point. We got tricked into being beta testers, and it pisses me off. I couldn't have put it better. I do think that people who purchase the Founders Edition are essentially beta testers. The current state of Stadia is early access at best. Some may not care, but personally, if I knew this was what I was getting as a founder, I would have saved my money for when it came out for everyone else for free. At least maybe by then the features we were promised would be released. That, or it would have died already and I didn't waste my money. Controller is being put away, subscription is being canceled, and I'm forgetting about it until I hear we are out of beta and we are given what we were promised. This is straight up a AAA game release, but on a platform level, just incomplete, broken, just a shell of what it really should be, just not fully there, and people being tricked into thinking that a beta product is a final product being sold at full price. And the people who shelled out that money, I can understand if there are people out there who felt disappointed or like they wasted $130. I certainly felt like I did when I tried Stadia myself. I just haven't touched it in a while because it's just not a great gaming experience. Even with my decent internet speed that meets the requirements, I'm just not getting smooth gameplay. It's just, I would never want to play a game like Destiny 2, for example, in that way. I would want to play locally where it's always reliable, no stuttering, the graphics look gorgeous. So yeah, this post really summarizes a lot of people's sentiments. And then here's another Reddit user who's baffled that Stadia doesn't have a basic feature like voice chat, any sort of chat functionality. Stadia right now is just a whole lot of nothing. There's just no reason to play Stadia over other local platforms, local hardware. It is objectively an inferior way to play right now. And the only thing that can mitigate that is offering better value through a monthly subscription that grants you access to a whole library. But without that, I mean, it's just a pointless platform where you're pouring money on something that is uncertain, that if it shuts down, you lose access to the games that you don't get to download, you only get to access, that you don't get to own physically. Streaming technology is really interesting, it's really cool, but it has to be put into the market in such a way that it fills a void for customers. You know, it fills a part of their life that they didn't know they needed. And the fact of the matter is that Stadia right now, it is just too inaccessible for the casuals, and it's too niche for the hardcore. It appeals to no one. But we'll see what the future holds for Stadia. We'll see if everything they're touting here will be enough to maintain its current player base, bring new people in, or if people will see Stadia as an irrelevant product that offers no value, and we'll just see Stadia degrade over time until it just becomes shrouded in obscurity. Time will tell. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Stadia. Do you think it can recover? What do you think it needs to do to recover? And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.